Gojira! Yeah, I'm going to be talking about the new Godzilla movie that is coming out, or it has already come out in Japan, and it will be coming out in limited release here in the United States next month in October. Now, I'm not exactly sure if I will be able to see it, only because I don't know if it's going to be playing in any of my local theaters. Hopefully so. That would be great. A great treat for me to go see a Godzilla monster movie during the Halloween time. But we will see. And I'll let you guys know if I do get a chance to go see it. But thanks to the internet, I have found out a lot of really cool information about the film, as well as seeing some advanced footage. Excuse me. And I just want to talk about it a little bit. Now, if you have known me for any amount of time online, you know that I am a Godzilla fan. I actually named him as my favorite monster in my top 10 favorite monsters list that I did back in 2014, which is a video you can see on this channel if you just go scroll through. And I've been a fan of Godzilla since I was a little kid. I believe the first real Godzilla film that I saw was Godzilla vs. King Kong. And then later on, I saw Godzilla 1985. And finally, years later, I saw the original Godzilla film that came out in 1954, which is a great film. And I saw both versions. I saw the Americanized version, and then I finally saw the original Japanese version. And I prefer that one a lot more because it has a more nightmarish quality. It's almost like you've fallen asleep and you've laid into this nightmare and you can't wake up. But it's very good, very high quality film, considering it's supposed to be just a sci-fi monster film of the 50s. But it has that whole backstory and connotation of the atomic bomb and the aftermath of that when it was dropped on Japan back during World War II. But as I went along in life, I finally got a chance to watch more Godzilla films, and I think my favorite, just because of childhood nostalgia, actually is the original Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla that came out. And that's the one with King Caesar, and you know, they had the woman, she had to sing the songs, Wake Up King Caesar, and Mecha Godzilla is piloted by these green alien monkeys. Just a very wild film, but it's one of my favorite films of all time, just because it's so cheesy and hokey, and it's one of those from my childhood. And then later on, I really enjoyed the Heisei series of Godzilla films that came out during the early 90s. I think that's my favorite series of Godzilla films altogether. Some of the newer ones that came out in 2000s, they have a couple of good ones there. They're kind of hit and miss for me. I'm just a bigger fan of the Heisei series, from just the artwork that was done for the posters all the way to some of the stories, which some of them are very outlandish, but they do have a connection together and some cohesiveness, and they're just fun movies to watch. But there is going to be a new Godzilla film called, I believe the official name is Godzilla Resurgence, and they kind of call the monster in the film Shin Gojira, which is just a way of saying new Godzilla. Anyone who's a fan of Japanese anime or Japanese culture knows that terminology of Shin, whatever. You know, there's been lots of new interpretations of giant mechs or giant robots or different versions of their classic characters in anime form. So you know the term Shin. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about this movie and just kind of give my thoughts on what I've seen and what I've learned so far from other YouTubers about the film. So, first and foremost, let's talk about the look of the new Godzilla, because a lot of people were very divided when they started seeing the first images of if they liked this look of Godzilla, especially considering the last Godzilla movie we saw was the American version that came out in 2014, which I enjoyed that movie. I know there's some people who are also divided on that, but I thought that was a good start for America to do their own Godzilla film series. I thought it was a great start. It had a lot of great things in it. I know a lot of people were disappointed with not seeing a lot of Godzilla, but if you actually think about it, in every Godzilla film, you really don't see a lot of him. So that's the only thing I would say as far as like the problem with that film was. But to see this new Godzilla, it doesn't. A lot of people were kind of shocked that they decided to go all the way back to the original version of Godzilla and kind of build off of that design. And I thought that was a good thing to do and a good, interesting design choice. And this Godzilla, in my opinion, he looks scary. He looks scary, and it's almost very disturbing to look at him because it looks like his skin is burning or is starting to peel. You can kind of almost see the insides of him. He has these little beady eyes and these really sharp needle-like teeth. So it's a combination of different actual reptiles and creatures that it's just very disturbing to look at. He looks like an abomination, essentially, which is what he's supposed to be. And that's the theme that they're trying to produce in this film. Now I'm going to talk about certain things in the film, so this might be spoiler territory. So if you don't want to hear anything about the film and you just want to wait till it comes out to watch it, feel free to cut off my review now, and I'm going to talk about a couple of the things that I've learned about the film. First and foremost, I don't believe that there are any other monsters in the film, and I know a lot of people started seeing a lot of images coming out, so they think there's another monster, but actually what you're seeing is Godzilla's different forms in the film, because this Godzilla actually evolves. And this movie is not connected to any other series. It's a reboot. So this Godzilla was created from toxic nuclear waste in the ocean. And what it did was create and mutate some single cell organisms, and then they kind of came together and created this little irradiated tadpole-like creature that's moving around in the ocean, and that begins to mutate further and grow, and that's what becomes Godzilla. And it goes through different forms. Like I said, it starts out as this tadpole type creature. Then it kind of comes on the shore, and what people are kind of calling it is, they call that Turkey Godzilla. That's kind of the funny name that people have given his second form. And this form is very disturbing looking to me as well, because it has these really big fish googly eyes, and there's blood and stuff pouring out of its gills because it's trying to adapt to land. There's even a scene where the blood is pouring out onto people's cars and onto the street. Just very disturbing looking. You can kind of see that it's burning from the inside. So that whole idea that Godzilla is just one big nuclear reactor and that he's burning and the radiation is pouring out of him is a big theme there. And I think they took this a lot from what happened with the whole Fukushima nuclear plant disaster. I know one YouTuber that follows me, the Radical Home Goddess, she talks about Fukushima fallout a lot and how it's affected the environment, not in just Japan, but the Pacific Ocean, and what it's doing to the animal life here in the States. And she's absolutely right. And I think that this movie is trying to paint that, just like the original Godzilla painted a sci-fi version of what happened to Japan after the atomic bomb was dropped. I think this film is focusing on what happened with Fukushima fallout and talking about that. And so as Godzilla mutates further, then he turns into that final form that we've seen pictures of. Anyone who's been following the news about this new Godzilla, and you see him in his final form, he has these really short, almost bony type hands and arms, but like I said, he looks like he's burning from the inside out, and you see cracks in his skin and the bones, and his tail is super long, and some people have even hypothesized that there are bones and other things, creatures either coming off his tail or being absorbed by his tail. I'm not exactly sure. There's some really weird and disturbing looking images where it looks like there's bones or facial bones in his tail and forming around his skin. So it's almost, you can say, like a lot of dead animal life and human life has been sucked up into this creature that is Godzilla. And the last thing I want to talk about is his atomic breath, which, of course, there have been different versions of it over the years where it kind of looks just like smoke. Other versions, it looks like a laser beam, or it looks like fire or rings of fire. This version, of course, they decided to do something a little bit different, and I appreciate that. And I saw some video footage of it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it just I thought it looked really cool and really scary. If you were a person that actually had to look at that coming at you, I think you'd be very scared. It has some very striking imagery. First, it looks like he's actually vomiting fire. It starts out with just that. So just like he is evolving, his atomic breath and beams are evolving as well. So his powers are evolving as he is. So at first, it looks like he's just literally vomiting fire and nuclear waste all over the place, and it causes these huge fires. And there's this really cool shot of, just his large body standing there, and the entire city is on fire. And then finally, as that flame exhausts itself, it turns into this bright purple, bluish nuclear beam that shoots out of his mouth and is extremely devastating. It just cuts through buildings like a lathe or just a hot laser going through these buildings and just causing massive amounts of destruction. And when you think it can't get any worse, Godzilla can also shoot these beams out of his tail as well as shoot these beams out of the spines on his back, which is something a little bit different than I've seen before. And when the jets and the military are trying to shoot him down, these beams shoot out of his back and just cut them to pieces. So it's just an amazing thing to see. I've only seen it on the small screen on my computer screen, but if it does come here to theaters in my area, I'll definitely go check it out so I can see this on the big screen. I think it'll be amazing to see. I think this is also the first time we've seen the Japanese do a Godzilla film where it's totally CG. I know it looks really well done. It's so well done that you think it's actually a man in a suit still being filmed, but they've released footage and shown the models and the 3D animation, and it looks amazing because just the way the character moves, or even the way the character doesn't move, because some people have told me from their reviews that there are scenes where Godzilla is standing very still, and it's very ominous with the music playing in the background and just kind of him standing still. And for someone who actually lived in South Florida for a number of years, I've seen several different types of reptiles, large and small, and yes, that can be very unsettling when this reptile is just kind of sitting there still looking at you, or kind of looking around, just because you don't know what they're going to do. You don't actually know what they're thinking. They're very different from mammals in that respect, in that reptiles have this very cold look and it's a very cold, soulless demeanor, and you really can't tell what their next move or next reaction is going to be. But I have to say that as a Godzilla fan, I'm happy with what I've seen so far. Hopefully I get to see it in theaters. If not, I'll just have to wait for a DVD or Blu-ray release. But let me know what you guys think of the new Shin Gojira. If you like the design, if you don't like it, if I have excited you with the way his powers work, and if you like the way that this Godzilla actually evolves throughout the movie and changes from different forms, and how he was formed in a different way this time, from just being born from a nuclear blast. This time it's more from nuclear toxic waste. So let me know what you guys think in the comments section, and make sure you like this video and subscribe. Chris Crazy House signing out. Peace.